There are countless examples of how the four drivers of change and disruption have upended society and our lives as individuals. Years of misinformation, increased and amplified through social media, have accelerated political and cultural polarization to the point of an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Not to mention dispute and discord in our own families. Climate change is also accelerating, and we can feel its effects in big and small ways. What have you experienced? Less snow than when you were a kid? Maybe the ocean water is warmer than you remember it. Or maybe you or someone you know has endured a severe wildfire, hurricane, or other natural disaster. It's tempting to consider each of the four drivers apart from one another. Each is such a big concept on its own. But you've probably already observed that the drivers often overlap and intersect. Consider the COVID-19 pandemic. We all have so many stories about how the pandemic has changed our behavior, our relationships, and our lives, possibly forever. For instance, I think about all the people who started working from home for the first time. One artist in New York City had been making his living for nearly 50 years by promoting his artwork in galleries, coffee shops, and cafes. When COVID hit, his business ground to a halt. But he soon learned how to use Zoom to market his art to new buyers, and he started a website making his art available to the world. Video conferencing also keeps millions of students learning from grade school to graduate school. A woman from Los Angeles tells the story of her college-age son who spent 2 years at a junior college before the pandemic. During the pandemic, he spent his third year at a 4-year university via remote learning, an option he found he preferred to being in person. When he started his 4th year in college, it was a hybrid of in-person and virtual classes, what he considers the best of both worlds. His mother believes her son would have stayed at home and at junior college indefinitely were it not for the global shift towards remote learning. While it's true, the initial adaptation was often bumpy and barriers to access still exist in many communities, remote work, education, healthcare, and more would not have been possible without 4IR technologies. The pandemic intersects with another driver in a different and destructive way. Misinformation about COVID-19 prevention, treatment, vaccines, and even the origins of the virus has been pervasive from the start. There have been thousands of conspiracy theories and rumors, and sadly linked to just as many hospitalizations and deaths. What about climate change? Could the pandemic possibly be linked to that driver too? In fact, according to the Center for Climate, Health, and the Global Environment at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, many of the root causes of climate change also increase the risk of pandemics. For example, deforestation is the largest cause of animal habitat loss worldwide, which in turn causes animals to migrate and come in contact with other animals or people they ordinarily wouldn't and transmit infectious germs. As you think more deeply about your own experience with the pandemic, think about how it's impacted work, education, healthcare, government, and other sectors. Even the way we shake hands, or don't, has changed. Now think about how you've changed or want to change as a result.